China Joe Biden came out and said, those balloons or those objects, well, they're not from China. A lot of people are raising their eyebrows about this. People saying, okay, well, if those 3 balloons weren't from China, what about the one balloon that we definitely know was from China that you allowed to fly over the country, snapping photographs of a lot of very sensitive sites for an entire week? How about that balloon there, Joe? And so we're going to see if he addresses any of that. We've got several clips from him. We have an idea that maybe one of those objects that was shot down was in fact Little Timmy's balloon that we joked about last week. Might be true. They might have blown it out of the sky, poor guy. And Biden got asked some questions about his exit. They said, hey, Joe, is the reason you let that spy balloon pop overhead because you're connected to China or Hunter is or your brother James is? Let's see. But the first clip that we have from the president's speech is the overture. What he's explaining is what happened from a zoomed out level. He's the president. He is in a situation. The radar starts beeping off the hook. We've got all these little balloons flying around here. Joe, what should we do? They wake him up. They say, put the ice cream down, get out of whatever, and make a decision. So the first one we know didn't feel like it went all that right. That balloon floated overhead for a whole week and nobody did anything about it until it was basically on its way back to China. Then they decided to shoot it down. So the president, many days later, finally says, all right, America, you guys have been complaining about this, whining and moaning. So, all right, I guess I'll tell you what's going on. Here is what it looked like.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. President.
Last week, in the immediate aftermath of the incursion by China's high-altitude balloon, our military, through the North American Aerospace Defense Command, so-called NORAD, closely scrutinized our airspace, including enhancing our radar to pick up more slow-moving objects.
Little Timmy's balloon. They turned that gain up.
In doing so, they tracked 3 unidentified objects, one in Alaska, Canada, and over Lake Huron in the Midwest. They acted in accordance with established parameters for determining how to deal with unidentified aerial objects in U.S. airspace. At their recommendation, I gave the order to take down these 3 objects due to hazards to civilian commercial air traffic and because we could not rule out the surveillance risk of sensitive facilities.
Okay, but that second part was justification enough, the risk of surveillance activities. It was sufficient justification to shoot these down, but not the first one. So he's got a 2-parter here. Commercial aircraft and surveillance capabilities. Both of those would have applied to the first craft before it entered United States airspace, right? If it was outside of Alaska, before it was crossing over the Aleutian Islands, as we know it did, both of those factors would have been true prior to it entering in. Surveillance, theoretically commercial flights, before it ever crossed the land. Now, it was higher. It was at 60,000 feet versus these are at 40,000 feet. So I guess if it's high and it spies, it's okay. If it's low and it spies, it's not okay.
We acted in consultation with the Canadian government. I spoke personally with Prime Minister Trudeau and from Canada on Saturday. And just as critically, we acted out of an abundance of caution and an opportunity that allowed us to take down these objects safely. Our military and the Canadian military are seeking to recover the debris so we can learn more about these 3 objects. Our intelligence committee is still assessing all 3 incidences. They're reporting to me daily and will continue their urgent efforts to do so, and I will communicate that to the Congress. We don't yet know exactly what these 3 objects were. But nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country.
You're kidding. They weren't Chinese, and they weren't even surveillance objects. They were literally Little Timmy's science project.
The Intelligence Committee's current assessment is that these 3 objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation, or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
Bummer.
When I came into office...
That's a big bummer for Mrs. Johnson's 4th grade class and all of those little physics projects that they were playing around with. Wasn't so good. And in fact, there's more on this story. This came over from an aviation website. Let's take a look. A hobby club is apparently missing their balloon. And it's not even a spy balloon. Here's what they report. This is from aviationweek.com. A hobby club's missing balloon is feared to have been shot down by the U.S. Air Force. Published February 16th, 2023. Timmy, no, it's him. And I think I see little Timmy right there. Look at him. Look at this little fella right there, tucked away back there. He's all excited. He's like, man, we're going to get some real cumulonimbus clouds up there. Cumulonimbus clouds. And Sirius and all the ones that produce the rain and the water cycle. Remember the water cycle? It rains in the smiling sun. The whole thing, it flows around. Poor guy. He's right there. They took his balloon out. Here, a middle school class learns how to use a scientific balloon. Right there. Why? We knew it, man. We knew it. A small globe-trotting balloon declared missing in action by an Illinois-based hobbyist club on February 15th has emerged as a candidate to explain one of the three mystery objects shot down by 4 heat-seeking missiles. A heat-seeking missile for Timmy's science project, man. Launched by U.S. Air Force fighters. The club, the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. Poor crew. The Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade, the NIBBB, the NIB team, is not pointing fingers yet, but the circumstantial evidence is at least intriguing. The club's silver-coated party-style Pico balloon reported its last position on February 10th at 40,000 feet, 38,900 feet off the west coast of Alaska, and a popular forecasting tool called the High Split Model provided the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration projected cylindrically shaped object would be floating high over the central part of the Yukon Territory on Feb 11. That's the same day that a Lockheed Martin F-22 shot down an unidentified object of a similar description and altitude in the same general area. Oh, man. There are suspicions among other prominent members of the small Pico ballooning enthusiast community, which combines ham radio and high-altitude ballooning into a relatively affordable hobby. It sounds like fun, actually. Now all this balloon talk has got me kind of, interested in ballooning. Maybe we can send, a Watching the Watchers balloon over here. We'll send one from Arizona back over to the East Coast or something and see where it lands, maybe over in China. Who knows? I tried contacting our military and the FBI, and I just got the runaround. I tried to call and enlighten them on what a lot of things probably are. And they're going to look, and they're not going to look too intelligent to be shooting them down, says Ron Meadows. He calls the FBI, hey, idiots, you guys are going to be blowing out our science projects out of the sky. They give him the runaround. They say, well, we don't really want to talk to you. The descriptions of all 3 unidentified objects shot down match the shapes, altitudes, and the payloads of the small Pico balloons, which can usually be purchased for $120 or $180 a piece. Yeah, a retired FedEx engineer, co-host of the Amateur Radio Roundtable show, knows more than the entire U.S. military, says, I'm guessing they're probably just Pico balloons. He's got 3 Pico balloons flying around in northern and the southern hemispheres right now. He's like, yeah, I got a whole, look, there's an app for that. He's like, yeah, right here. Aviation Week contacted a host of government agencies, including the FBI. They called NORAD, they called the National Security Council and others for comments. They said, you guys know you're blowing balloons out of the sky? Do you know that? The NSC did not respond. The FBI and the OSD did not acknowledge that harmless Pico balloons are being considered. Nobody has an update on that. NORAD said, no, I have no update from NORAD on any of these objects. On February 15th, that was just yesterday, John Kirby told reporters that they could just be balloons tied to commercial or benign purposes. Of course, the balloons carry an 11-gram tracker. It's all on a tether. They can come in several forms. They can be Mylar party balloons. Some of them can't go higher than 20 to 30,000 feet. Different materials. You can buy some of these for $12. Very resilient material. They have them in Japan. And so they're exempt from airspace. They weigh less than 6 pounds. They're exempt from most restrictions. They have them all over the place. North Korea, Yemen, UK. Community is nervous that their balloon could be shot down. Timmy's talking to Johnny. And Johnny's like, dude, man, I worked hard on mine. I hope it doesn't happen to mine. And Timmy's like, it probably won't, Johnny. It's going to be okay, man. It's going to work out, man. Just have faith. Meanwhile, their friends balloons 2 and 3 just got taken out. Anyways, so that's what's going on. Military's having a difficult time figuring out what these things are. Shout out to Aviation Week, and shout out to the former FedEx individual who solved this problem for us. Maybe they should give him a job at the Pentagon. Shout out to Tom Medlin. Somebody hire that man. He should be CIA director. All right, so that's what's going on now out of the White House. Now, Joe Biden's explaining that, right? It could just be little science projects. We don't know. But let's talk about the first balloon. All right, the three balloons that they shot down are Timmy's. But the first one, that was definitely Xi Jinping's probably. We probably know that. We're almost positive on that one. So why didn't we shoot that one down? Why did Little Timmy's have to suffer the poor fate of an F-22 Sidewinder missile, but not President Xi's? What's going on there? That's a little bit strange. Well, President Biden did hop on this podium for us and explain a little bit more about that first incident, the one that actually is a giant problem and not just some $12 balloon floating around the skies.
High-altitude surveillance balloons entered our airspace over the continental United States earlier in the month. I gave the order to shoot it down as soon as it would be safe to do so. The military advised against shooting it down over land because of the sheer size of it. It was the size of multiple school buses and posed a risk to people on the ground if it was shot down where people lived. Instead, we tracked it closely, we analyzed its capabilities, and we learned more about how it operates. And because we knew its path, we were able to protect sensitive sites against collection. We waited until it was safely over water, which would not only protect civilians, but also enable us to recover substantial components for further analysis, for further analytics. And then we shot it down, sending a clear message. The violation of our sovereignty is unacceptable.
But it was after they were leaving our sovereignty is when they shot it down. So size of 3 school buses, giant, apparatus flying around. We spied on it more than they spied on us. And we shot it down, sending a hard message to them. Do you believe that at all? Do you think the Chinese got a hard message?
We'll act to protect our country, and we did. Now, this past Friday, we put restrictions on 6 firms that directly support the People's Republic Liberation Army.
Now, I was listening for this. I wanted to know, what are they going to do in response? Are they going to send them a balloon? Are they going to sanction something? Is there going to be a contract, sanction, something rescinded? Are we going to declare war on them? What are we doing? And here we do have some idea that there is a sanction on some companies.
The People's Liberation Army aerospace program that includes airships and balloons, denying them access to U.S. technology. We briefed our diplomatic partners and our allies around the world, and we know about China's program and where their balloons have flown. Some of them have also raised their concerns directly with China. Our exports have lifted components of the Chinese balloon's payload off the ocean floor. We're analyzing them as I speak, and what we learn will strengthen our capabilities. Now, we'll also continue to engage with China, as we have throughout the past 2 weeks. As I've said since the beginning of my administration, we seek competition, not conflict with China. We're not looking for a new Cold War, but I make no apologies, and we will compete. And we'll responsibly manage that competition so that it doesn't veer into conflict. This episode underscores the importance of maintaining open lines of communication.
All right, so that is him talking about China. They're going to stay open and have additional conversations about it. Now, I've got one more clip of him before he gets the exit. This is where he was talking about the plan. It's a sort of a 4-part plan about what the United States is going to do. I'm always interested in how they avoid this again. And I can actually understand the military making a mistake. I get that. It's like, all right, look, the Chinese did something. Nobody was really prepared for it. Now we know. All right. But when they turn around and they say, what are you talking about? This was perfectly competent, right? That's where I start to say, all right, it's the military. It's our team. I want our military to be good. I want our country to be strong and competent. I don't want incompetence. I don't enjoy our military being kind of goofy around some of these things. And they are. And they come out and they say that this is, is all done by the book. They're like, they're like doing cartwheels. They're like, this is great. And we got that balloon, baby. They're patting themselves on the back. So, all right, they want to do that. I really am interested in what is the next plan. What's your 4-part plan? What's the 3-part plan? What's the next, balloon situation look like when China does it again, or when they send over something really problematic like an EMP or something? What is it that you're going to be doing? This is his 4-part plan.
In addition, I've directed my national security advisor to lead a government-wide effort to make sure we are positioned to deal safely and effectively with the objects in our airspace. First, we will establish a better inventory of unmanned airborne objects in space
So they're going
States
to check
airspace,
all Timmy's projects
and make sure that inventory is accessible and up to date. Second,
register your balloons.
We'll implement further measures to improve our capacity to detect unmanned objects in our airspace. Third, we'll update the rules and regulations for launching and maintaining unmanned objects in the skies above the United States of America. And fourth, my Secretary of State will lead an effort to help establish common global norms in this largely unregulated space. These steps will lead to safer and more secure skies for our air travelers, our military, our scientists, and for people on the ground as well.
Okay. Do you think that any of those 4 things would have stopped the Chinese balloon from invading the United States? Well, I don't think that they were going to apply it on their inventory list. Don't think that that was going to be a part of it. Don't think the Chinese spy balloon are going to comport with the United States or international community's launch rules or the regulations. So the really only thing that we care about is the plan. What's the United States going to do about this when the Chinese allegedly, flagrantly violate the norms? What's the country going to do? We still don't have any answers on that. We're probably not going to get them. They got embarrassed about this. And so if you're launching a balloon project anytime soon, good luck to you. You may not get it back. Military's on high alert. We'll see what happens.